Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Awakening Potential Show, your gateway to the extraordinary. And today we're featuring Kelley Thompson, who has mastered turning everyday moments into milestones of wisdom. Kelley Thompson is a business and personal development coach whose specialty is helping people get out of their heads and into action as they achieve their goals and realize their potential. She stresses practical application, not theory, my kind of gal, uh, sharing the tools and techniques that enable her to build and thriving, uh, enabled her to build, excuse me, her thriving production company. She's raised 4 children by herself while managing a multi-million-dollar event company and starting her own business. Kim is known for simplifying the complex. She takes an inside-out approach to her teaching, focusing on both the mental and practical steps that build momentum. And it helps you clarify ideas and create action steps to achieve them. Love that. Kim embodies the transition from ordinary to extraordinary, making her the perfect guest for today's exploration. So join us as we delve into her transformational journey and gain insights to elevate our own lives. So Kim, welcome, welcome, welcome. A warm welcome to you. Thank you for being on the show and taking your time and energy to be here.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. And it's so good to be here and to have reconnected with you.
Yes, it's been a while, but I am so grateful we have. Absolutely. So uh, I'm curious. I mean, more so for the listening audience. A lot of people, as you know, will start out in life and think that they can't achieve or they can't become something because it's like too far of a stretch for them. And we've all had our trials and tribulations. I mean, you were a single mom, I was a single mom. We managed, we got through it, and we stepped into something greater than we knew ourselves to be. Well, I'd love to hear some of your backstory, if you'd be willing to share that and how it brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Because I think what you're saying is so true that a lot of times people have these ideas or a dream for their life, but then we get stuck in the everyday busyness of life, of the things that we have to do, and just that realistic way of, oh my gosh, I have to pay the bills, I have to do this, I have to put a food on the table, and all of that. And it's easy to read or hear or even watch something and think, oh my gosh, that would be so great. But I just have to, if I visualize it and I can do that. But then we just stop ourselves, right? Because we get in our heads and we get caught up with all this stuff. And I will say, quite frankly, some of that did happen for me and was holding me back. And I think a big thing that people miss is that you have to have a very strong internal motive that is fueling your purpose and your passions to go forward and do something in life. And not everybody has that, because not everybody takes the time to pay attention to that. In other words, I think we've grown up in a society that teaches us, go for the dollar and do things the safe way. You go to school, then maybe you go to college, and then maybe you go on, you get an MBA, and then maybe you go on and get a job, and then you do this and that, and then you do your 9 to 5, and then you pay your bills, then you put certain money away, and then you retire, right? And then everybody's like, oh, come on, it doesn't work like that. And thankfully, I think most people have kind of woken up that I'm not doing that. It doesn't work for me. I'm not going to wait to enjoy my life when I'm 65 and I retire. That just, for a lot of people, it doesn't work. And I think for me early on, my dad had a business. He was working in a company, and then he started his own business, because when we moved to California from back east and after moving all around the country, my dad was given an opportunity to start another business in the Midwest, and he thought, oh, I'm in California. I'm not dealing with the winters anymore. I'm going to do. So he started his own business and he got into sales. And so watching that was really my inspiration, because I started to see that and think, oh my gosh, I can kind of have some flexibility in my schedule and write my own paycheck for myself, because it was commission sales. Obviously, he was starting a business. And so, but he was in financial planning at the time. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. Sign me up for that. So I got into sales and I loved it. I loved it because it was just fun. I have some flexibility and I did really well in it because, once you start getting momentum, that momentum builds the confidence. They kind of go hand in hand and then you get more momentum. And so the sales I really enjoyed it. And from that, interestingly enough, some of my clients hired me to train their sales teams. And so I started training their sales teams. But what I found is that I was like 23, 24 maybe at the time. And this was the automotive industry. And so I was walking in, and at that time, most of the people were men in their 40s and 50s. And here's this young little girl coming in going, hey, and so I really got into personal development. I really got into that to understand and get some more structure around the sales training and to kind of build a framework around it. But that was really kind of my start into following my dreams, I guess you could say, and just, taking me into this idea of, if I really have a goal or a dream for my life, can I achieve it? And how am I going to be able to achieve it? Really kind of pushed me into understanding personal development and taking a look at myself and saying, I wouldn't have this dream if I didn't have a desire. I wouldn't have the desire if I didn't have within it the seeds to bring it to reality. Like, I am a firm believer of that. And if you can start to understand that, then you can start to really boost your belief and your confidence that it is possible. And once you can start to do that and you realize, okay, there's no other way for me. Like, for me, I knew I couldn't do a 9 to 5 job because it just wasn't part of my personality. I would have gone stir crazy. And so I had to figure out, how am I going to make ends meet in sales? And in commission sales, you have to make ends meet or you don't have food on the table. And so that's why the personal development really became part of it for me, because business development and personal development go hand in hand. They absolutely do. That was kind of my starting point. That was my starting point. And then flash forward years later, raising a family, getting divorced, and then going back into, and that kind of opens up a whole nother thing, which we can get into if you want.
Whatever you're going to talk about, one of the things that I love about Awakening Potential is, it's all about our journey. It's a conversation, and wherever the conversation goes, it's meant to go, is what I like to say. Um, and what I'm hearing thus far is that your journey, like the one of the biggest catalysts for you, other than your father, was too in your personal growth journey. Is
Oh,
that
100%. When I was in sales, I my goal was to become the number one salesperson in that team, on that team. And I was in magazine advertising sales. And that meant I wanted the back cover, the inside covers, like, all the large full pages. Right. And the reason why that was important to me is because I wanted to prove it to myself. I didn't have a family at the time. It wasn't like, I had to prove it to anybody else, or it wasn't like I had this, I had to take care of my kids, but it was more that I wanted to prove to myself that I had the ability to go after what I set my mind to. So it became almost this internal challenge for myself. And I set that goal. And shortly after I set that goal, I got this flyer in the time, direct mail was a big deal at the time, right? So I got like this flyer in the mail and it said Zig Ziglar, who was king of sales at the time, right? And if anybody doesn't know Zig Ziglar, look, you can Google him, but Zig Ziglar was appearing near me. And I thought, that's it. So I grabbed some of my peers from the sales team and I said, we are going to hear him. And so we went. And at the time, I really thought I was going to learn all about sales, objections, closing, how to handle the sale, all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't like that. It was mostly all about shifting your identity and stepping into the salesperson or the person that you want to be that already has the goal attained. And now we hear a lot more about that now. And it could just be because, we have the internet, so it's easier to Google stuff. But at the time, nobody was really talking about that. I mean, you could read Think and Grow Rich and get a little bit of that, or listen to different motivational speakers and like Jim Rohn and such. But it was really understanding that our beliefs shape our reality. And how, if you could just shift into that, you have to become that person first. Instead of chasing the goal outside of yourself, it has to come from within first. And so when I walked away from that, within the next month, within the next month, I had almost tripled my income and I had almost every single major ad in that publication. And it was
Wow,
just because I had learned to, oh my God, how am I programming my subconscious mind and shifting into that way of being? And that has been the thing that has honestly led me through my entire life in anything that I've been doing, in any business that I've built.
I love that. I love that because what I'm also hearing in that is attitude is key, right? Holding the space is your attitude to become that in order to have it and be that. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah. It's, you know, the be do have model, right? Because a lot of times we have it backwards. You know, it's like when I have the money, when I have the big house, then I can
Exactly.
have all the people over and have the parties, you know, and then it will be really fun and feel warm and lively and enjoy. And it's not that way. It's like you have to be that way first, you know. So it's like, look, open the door now and have everybody over. Who cares what the house looks like? Just enjoy them and have fun. And you know, it's the opposite way of approaching things. And it
Yeah,
makes it easier because you're not hustling, hustling, hustling. Instead, it's this is where the law of attraction comes in, right? Because it's really because you're shifting your way of being and that starts to open yourself up to the opportunities because what happens is then your confidence starts to build inside, right? Because you kind of already see yourself that way. And when your confidence starts to build again, it's a game changer. It starts to build that momentum. And that's when it makes it easier to I can go into this sales call. And if this person doesn't sign, I can say, do you have any referrals? Rather than walking away going, oh my God, I screwed up. I didn't get the deal. They didn't sign. Oh my God. And getting in your head instead, you know what? I understand it's not right for you right now, but do you know anybody that you might think it could be right for? Which just flips it because you're approaching it from a person that's already in that position.
exactly. Love that. I do that all the time. And I really tell my clients the same thing. Do you or somebody else know of something that would support me in doing or whatever I need kind of thing. And
Yeah,
it really has served me personally doing that as well because I've learned to knock the door opens, right? Ask and you'll receive. You don't ask, you don't get.
exactly. Absolutely. That's so incredibly true. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of times we just, you know, we are afraid to ask because there's that, it all comes back to that little bit of doubt inside. You know, we don't want to be rejected. And it's kind of like, you're going to be rejected. I mean, I am a huge fan of reading biographies because I like to see how many struggles people have been through and how they've come through on the other side and what it's taken for them. Because just by doing that, you can kind of go, oh, if they can do it, surely I can take one or two no's.
and that's the preface of awakening potential, right? It's because it's awakening within, getting past all our, I like to call them disbelief
Yeah,
systems and the things that hold us back. And, you're a shining example of that. I mean, obviously, you've come through your own challenges and you were able to rise above that. So what did it take for you to rise above? And if I may, only if you'd like to share with the audience, what was the story that, if you had a story, that belief system that held you back until something shifted within you and then catapulted you forward?
I think the main thing was that I was really starting to doubt myself, and this is flash forward years later. So, you know, when I was having the success and I had the business and I was doing the sales training and such, then I got married and started raising a family. And I was torn because I loved my business, but I really wanted to be a parent and I wanted to be really present to my child at the time and subsequently children. But I was torn. And I think a lot of women go through this because I didn't necessarily need to work. Yes, we could have used the income, but we could make it work. But I was like, God, you lose your identity because it's like, wow, I'm this person over here and now I'm this mom over here. And at the same time, I love being a mom. I mean, I am just like, let me have fun, let me play. I just want to do that. Let's go outside all day. And
Yeah.
then there's another part of me, it's like, but I kind of miss this over here. So it was like, that was a struggle for a long time because I kind of kept working. And at the time, I was doing some of the sales training. And then I was also shifting into doing some documentaries because I wanted to do I wanted to do some production. I wanted to take what I learned about personal development, and I wanted to create these programs that were educational, enlightening, and inspiring, right? So not only like from the stage, but also how can I make this into a documentary where it maybe reaches more people? So I kept doing a little bit of that, but then my husband at the time started opening up businesses across the country. And so then it was like, oh, I can't keep doing this. Then I got pregnant again. So it was like, okay, I got to make a decision. So I shifted full time into being a mom, which I loved because listen, you only have your kids for a very short time. I mean, you really have 18 years. I mean, I'm very close with my kids now, and they're all late 20s, early 30s, and I see them regularly. But at the same time, you really only have that time where you're playing with them as a child for a very short time. And I thought, I don't want to miss this. And so my identity was so wrapped up with that when I got divorced, I had the very real need because my husband lost a business at the time and we were going to lose our house. We were about to lose everything. And I mean, everything. Like I had to think of how do I put food on the table? How do I
Right.
keep, and I'm very serious with this. How do I keep a roof over our heads? And I had 4 kids and he was having a hard time with some stuff at the time. And so it was like we were trying to make things work. We ended up going our separate ways. And I thought, okay, I got to figure out something here quickly. So what happened for me then was that, you don't have time to wallow in pity and go, what's my identity? What's going on? You have 4 children looking at you. And it's like, that's what my motive is right there.
Exactly.
And it was like, I
Uh,
also knew, damn, I wanted to start this business, but I had to bring food in quickly. So I thought, how can I make this work? And I thought I can get into sales and as as God would have it, and I fully believe that my higher power is always looking out for me. I went to a friend's house for dinner and she said, "Hey, we're looking for somebody to come in as a sales manager and you get this and this and these flexible hours." And I'm like, "Bingo. I'm doing that." And I gave myself a timeline. I'm like, I'm going to do that for a short amount of time while I'm building this other business because I knew I wanted to create my other business again. And so I started slowly building this other business. I wanted to get back into really the personal development and the writing. And I wanted to create an online magazine that was all about sales training, personal development, and all that. But I also knew I couldn't compete with the big guys like Success Magazine and Entrepreneur and all that. So at the time, I was in sales for event production. So I created a magazine for the hospitality industry called Incentive Travel Guide. And it was the low hanging fruit for me, but it allowed me then to transition and work from home and be fully present for my kids. And that magazine, I didn't know how to create an online magazine. Like I had no clue. But again, I have 4 kids looking at me and I thought I could stay the safe route, stay in the sales position. But I also knew I'd be teaching my kids that I was holding back and settling and I wasn't going after my dreams and I couldn't do that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to create this magazine. No clue how. But again, it's like you put it out there, right? You put it out there and you say, this is what I'm planning on doing. And you take a baby step, right? Like imperfect action always wins. And I started doing that and I made some contacts with some of the contacts I already knew from events, right? And then this is how you start looking at all the breadcrumbs and how the universe connects everything.
I
And
love
I went and I just went, it was very, very rudimentary. I mean, I'm telling you, I had a PDF guide of this is a pie chart and this is how many meeting planners I know. And this is what my ads are going to cost. And this is what it's going to be. And I went to these people and they knew me and I was talking to them and I said, I'm going to write your first article because I love writing. And I'm like, I'm going to write your first article. I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. Anyway, from there, the magazine was created. I met a graphic artist who knew how to create online magazines. I met somebody else to help me with some of the laying it all out and creating the website. We traded services. I hired journalism majors and English majors because I knew I could pay them less than a full-time writer. Um, and I knew they wouldn't plagiarize and I knew they could write fast. And so I hired them to help me write and I gave them kind of a template. This is what I want. Magazine was created within 2 months. Karen, within 2 months,
it.
that magazine led to 3 different income sources, led to a content development business, the magazine, of course, with the advertising, and then it led to my event production company, which I still have today and I love. I've really scaled that down to only really doing very luxe, high level red carpet events, celebrity events. So I only do a handful a year, but they are the ones that are very lucrative. And because I love it, those are the things I enjoy. Right. And so it was only because I stepped out in action in that. And I didn't know, but I'm telling you, it completely tripled my income from what I was doing in sales, changed everything for us, changed everything for us. And
Yeah.
so it allowed me then to go, all right, this is what this is what it means to awaken to that potential, to really and that's what it is. It's trusting. It's trusting that if you have a desire and you have an idea, you absolutely can bring it to fruition. Because I fully believe that ideas are energetic in nature, and I think they're given to us from spirit. And if we don't take action on them, they're going to bounce off of us. And someone,
Yes.
it's going to come to fruition. It
And
may not
so,
be you, but
yes,
someone's going to bring that to
yes,
life. And what
yes,
happens is when you see someone else living that idea, holy cow. And that
yeah,
did happen to me. I saw someone else doing what I intended to do, and I'm like, oh
yeah,
my God, what am I doing? I'm settling. I'm not moving forward, which is the thing that made me say, what am I teaching my kids? Get your butt out there and just
yeah.
take a baby step forward.
Yeah, I love that. You know, and one of the things, it's so, we have so much in common, both single moms, that sort of thing, got through all that. How are we going to do it? And it was my children that also became the catalyst for me to change that. And at the same time, my horse got struck by lightning, and it was like, all these things that were happening for me at the moment. And I was very much the victim when I was going through all of that. But I remember that as well. Um, and then stepping into, what do I love? And that's what I heard you say. What are you passionate about? What do you love?
Yeah.
And I remember, and I do this to this day with clients. It's like take a piece of paper, fold it, put all the things that all your experiences on one side of the paper, and I remember putting my taxi cab driver, I was doing 6 hours of carpooling back then. Taxi cab driver, no, cross that out. That's not something I want to do. But that's how I ended up, because I remember somebody saying to me, are you going back to nursing? And I went, no, I'm so burnt out from nursing. But I looked at all my strengths and I said, what can I build with that? And to this day, that's what can I build with this? What can I do with this?
Yep.
And it just keeps escalating. So I'm always in my joy, always doing things that I love doing,
Yeah.
which, has been fruitful, and obviously the same for you. And I just love that about you.
It's fruitful because you're aligned with it. Because when you're not in alignment with something, listen, there's a lot of things that I think you can look at and go, you can probably yourself go, look, I could go back to nursing and do quite well in it because, it's safe and I can make money and I can be okay and I can be comfortable, whatever. But when people are struggling and they start feeling the stress and you get burned out and you're just, life feels heavy or it's a burden, it's because you're not aligned with it. So yeah, you might be playing it safe, you might be making the money, but are are you happy? And it doesn't mean that you just go, oh, okay, I'm just going to contemplate my navel here and I'm going to be happy and things are going to be fine. It's like, no, there's a really real fact that you have to put food on the table and make money. I mean, I have bills to pay. Yeah, we all do. So it's like you can't just sit there and go, okay, you have to take action. But I think you're absolutely right. When you look at it and you go, what brings me joy and how can I marry the things that I'm good at, my strengths, with also the things that, can be of service
Yep.
to other people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know I'm living an aligned life. It sounds like you are as well. Um, wow. I know we could talk for hours. Yeah, and my mind is like,
Listen,
It-
I've had opportunity, you probably have too, where opportunities come to you.
yes, absolutely.
And because we're not entrepreneurial minded, I think it's very easy to go, oh my God, I can do all these different things because I have a lot of projects I want to do. And
Yes,
business, I love building a business. I absolutely do. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to get it into that monetary stage where you're like, oh my God, the business is bringing money in, da, 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 da. And I have a lot of ideas that I can look at and go, God, I could so see where I could bring this and do this and this and this and this and this. But then you have to kind of pull back and go, wait a minute, how much energy is that going to take? Is that
exactly.
going to take me out of my game here? And it doesn't have to be an either. It doesn't have to be no, absolutely not. It could just be maybe no, not at this time. Maybe it's just like okay, I can do that. But right now, I got to focus on this for 6 months, all in on something for 6 months. And then I can look at it and take the blinders off and go, okay, maybe I'm ready. But because it's kind of easy, I think, to get distracted and go, there's, oh, I have so many. I heard this idea one time about the idea box. And in fact, Linda Sunshine West told me this about putting
Yes,
things in an idea
yes.
box. Yeah. And you kind of put it away in a box and you say, okay, I'm not going to look at it yet, but I'll go back to it in 30 days and then maybe pull it out and go, oh, I'm ready for it now.
If I may be so, I have somebody at my door. Can I pause this for two
Yeah.
seconds?
Yeah.
I'm gonna, my apologies for that one. When the doorbell rings, life at home, life working at home. Um, you were saying at the time, the moment when I had to step out. Um, I just went
I,
blank.
I was
Forgive
just
me.
talking about the idea box and like putting
I
things
did that.
aside for a little bit and going, okay, I don't need to make a decision maybe on this right now, but it's a good idea and I'll go back to it some point. But then, you don't have to act on every opportunity that comes along. Sometimes it's okay to just sit there and go, wait a minute, is this right for me in this moment? Because I think otherwise, man, it is so easy to get off track and lose our focus and then go down the wrong road. And then years later, wake up and go, why am I doing this?
Exactly, exactly. As an ideator myself, that's one of the toughest things that I have to really get present to. It's like I cannot act on every single thing, even though my mind is going, yeah, like toy chest. So focus on what really brings you joy and be in the moment, being life in the present moment. And I think that's where you and I started
Yeah.
back in the day when I was offering that one. So yeah. If there is something that you'd like to leave the listening audience with, a gem, a pearl of wisdom, what would that be?
I think to always remember that you were born on purpose with purpose.
Absolutely.
And knowing that you're here for a reason. And again, when you have these dreams that pop up, you have to know that you would not be given those without the ability to bring them to fruition. And so you have to trust that. So to trust that and start taking some type of action, even if it's baby steps, even if it's imperfect action first, even if it's just writing it down. If you have an idea and you think, okay, I want to kind of do this, and you write it down, in a sense, almost creating a business plan for yourself. Because when you do that, you get it out of your head, you get it physically in front of you, and then you can start to say, whoa,
Yeah.
there is a possibility. I do know somebody that might be able to help me. Or what if I did this? And just start playing with things, because when you do that, you open your mind to really what I call the field of possibilities. And it's in that field of possibilities that all of a sudden these opportunities start to pop up and you start to realize that you do absolutely have far more potential than you may think you have. And you are capable of far more than you probably give yourself credit for.
Absolutely. I'm really curious. That's a good point, Kim, if I may, because I don't know about you, but one of the things that I found when I did sit down and write my plan, as it were, and I really got engaged in it, and it was bringing me, the thought of it was bringing me joy. It was almost like the universe just automatically, people started showing up, events started showing up, opportunities started showing up. So alignment, I remember being on a stage once and they said to us, it was in a personal growth and development program, and they said to us, oh, who are you going to be? And without thought, I was like, I'm going to be love. Where'd that come from? Kind of thing. And I declared, right, the spoken word in the moment, right? And I declared like this was my intention. And all of a sudden, every single thing I've done ever since has aligned with that intention. And people or opportunities show up, as I said. Did you have that same experience, or what was your experience of that?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think what happens is when we are operating in our zone of genius,
Yeah.
when we're operating in our zone of, and we know it, number one, we know it because we can feel it, right? Because things just naturally seem to flow. And yes, it doesn't mean that it doesn't require effort. It doesn't mean that you aren't going to hit some roadblocks. We all do, right? But when we're starting to, hey, kitty, when we are starting to operate from that zone of genius and we're doing what we're really meant to do, then things do naturally start to line up for us. And sometimes there's a stepping stone. Like when I created that publication, yeah, I had the idea for an online publication like a success magazine in a sense, but I still wasn't quite sure where it was going to lead.
Sure.
And it led me back to some of the other things I love doing, the writing, of course, the events, which I love, which puts me in front of a lot of people that I love connecting with, which many of whom have actually been on the podcast and are future going to be on future guests on the podcast, which, then again, you look at things and you go, oh my gosh, how everything becomes synchronistic, right? And it all starts falling together. And I look at this and I go, right now I'm in the middle of writing something that for another documentary and a show as well. And I'm like, this is what I started with years ago. And I won a scholarship in college for creating these. I didn't know what these programs were going to look like at the time, but
Yeah.
now I'm seeing how all of these things started to fit together, kind of like a puzzle, right? Fit together. But again, you got to step out in some type of action first and just get clear. And I think that's the big thing that people have a hard time with, getting clear, because I think we're so focused on reality, right? And the things that are in front of us. And I get that. Listen, I get that because I lived it, right? I got to put food on the table. But at the same time, when you can allow yourself a little bit of space to go, okay, what do I really want? And many times we're so consumed with what we don't want that we don't know what we want. So I always tell people, just make a list out of what you don't want, because when you really get down there and first of all, you got to get it out of your head, like get it out of your head and put it on paper, because you're just going to ping pong. And that's just drives you crazy. If you get it out of your head and you go, these are the things I can't stand. And it's okay. It's a rant page. It's like, hate this, don't want this, blah, 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 right? When you get all that stuff out, then you can go, oh man, okay, now I can kind of see what I do want, because I think deep down we all know what we want. I knew for a long time what I wanted, but I kept hiding it and pushing it off to the back burner. Why? Because I didn't believe it, and because my identity was wrapped up in something else first. And I had a hard time going, who am I? So that self-awareness, I think the self-awareness comes from getting clear, maybe first what you don't want, so you can see what you do want. And then it's the baby steps.
Love that. Love that. Well, as you know, as I had shared with you before, all of your contact information will be in the show notes for sure. I understand you have a free gift. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
I do. I actually have a success bundle for people that basically it contains 3 different guides in it. And one is really to help you get clear on your intention, clear on your vision. But then the other ones are more practical action steps, because again, nothing happens without action. So I like to be able to pull those two together, because a lot of times people have a dream, but a dream without action doesn't mean anything. So it's a 30-day fix that I like to help people, just to let's get you going. And here's some steps, concrete action steps that you can take. So it's the success bundle. And also, if people go to the website, they can always, if they all are concerned, thinking, gosh, what am I doing? Am I getting in my way? Because again, a lot of times the people that I work with primarily are people that are just so stuck in their head, they can't really get into action, but they know they want something. So there's a quiz there, a success quiz that they can take too, that gives them kind of what their archetype is and what might they be doing that could be kind of
Yeah,
preventing them from getting to where they want to go.
exactly. Exactly. Kim, it's been, as always, a pleasure connecting with you. I thank you so much for all of your contributions today and taking the time out. And I know you're running for a plane shortly.
Yep.
So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Heading to go have fun with one of my daughters.
There you go. Love that. But thank you so much for all your contributions.
Thank you, Karen. I really appreciate being here.
And I appreciate having you here. And for our listening audience out there who are joining us with the Awakening Potential Show, as we step back into the world, remember the bridge from ordinary to extraordinary is built with small steps. of change and big leaps of faith. Let today's insights from Kim be a guiding light as you navigate back into your own journey. Until next time, continue to awaken your potential and illuminate the extraordinary within. You've got it. Stay inspired. Bye for now.